Hey, what's up? It's me, Lex, back at you with another Pathfinder 2nd Edition video. Today's going to be a little bit of a shorter one. I just wanted to show off an example of something from one of my most recent videos, my translation of Matthew Colville's action-oriented monsters into Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Check out the link down below. And I wanted to show off, I have recently been running Abomination Vaults for a group of my friends, and I have modified the final boss using the same advice that I gave in that video. And I wanted to show it off and develop a final skill for the, or final action for the boss in this video as well, to show that off. But first things first, if you're part of my Abomination Vaults game, obviously don't watch this. If you're intending to be in an Abomination Vaults game, spoilers will be ahead, so you know, add it to your watch later. Come back whenever you complete your campaign. Anyways, let's get right into it. So, I've made a few narrative changes to the very end to make Belcora particularly imposing. I noticed her original spell list, and let me bring that up for you. Belcora. Her original spell list had Illusory Scene in it, and I wanted to translate that into a wider sort of narrative role. So I moved all of her narrative spells up to a higher rank so that I could kind of separate them out from the actual spells she's going to use in the middle of combat. I've had Nightmare affect our party while they're sleeping. There's a add-on that I greatly recommend called the Abomination Vaults Expanded by Taylor Hodgkiss. I'll link that as well below. It's a pay what you want supplement for Abomination Vaults, and it does some great stuff, like including Nightmare into the story. I also have a bit of a cheeky name here, Power Word Cutscene. This just stuns the creatures as long as is necessary, and then I have in my notes here, I have planned out what Belcora is going to say. It's going to be this big moment where the party opens the doors and walks into this lit up room. It's going to be like beautiful sunlight outside, etc., and there's this ring of stones. And then when they get to about here, I'm going to have them freeze, and this deer will appear that I have just massively inflated stats on, just in case someone rolls something. And the deer is going to walk forward and then speak to them, and it's going to be Belcora promising each of them something if they give up now, which obviously they're not going to do. So then Mind Link is used for some of the information transfer, but they're going to fight against the stun and break out and break into initiative, at which point I will have the illusion shatter, and I have this as a custom tile overlaying the room, so if I make it invisible to the players for this, I'm just going to move it to the side so that you can more accurately see, and then I enable all of the lights that are usually in the room, and it'll show Belcora 15 feet up in the air. As for design of Belcora, I changed around a few of her things. Obviously, that's kind of the point here. And you'll notice that her modifiers are lower. This is because my game is in proficiency without level, so I have that modifier on. But I will remove it temporarily to show off the statistics. I kept basically everything exactly the same. I changed the immunity to precision damage, which I thought was here. Oh yes, I changed the immunity to precision damage to equal to level resistance. She's meant to be a level 13 creature, it's just 12 because I have some automated math I needed. But other than that, I didn't really change much. I brought up her lowest save a little bit so that the barbarian doesn't just get up in her face and restrain her. But the main thing that I changed was I boosted her hit points by quite a lot, because 175 in the party that I'm in is going to get burnt through quite quickly. They all have Ghost Touch. They have various ways to boost their damage. Like I mentioned, there's a barbarian. And I want this to be a climactic fight. So boosting the hit points but not the rest of the stats means that the party should still have a pretty good chance at hitting and critting her, but won't just kill her outright like they could potentially with this hit point total. I have a gunslinger as well, so they could very well wipe out 100 of her hit points in a single hit with some luck. And then as far as various feats and features, I have changed her blood magic. I found that the adherence to strictly taking the rules as written benefits of an aberrant sorcerer led to quite a lot of the spells at her disposal not being very climactic or engaging to play as the GM or fight against as a player. And so I changed her blood magic effect to the undead one. Whenever she casts a spell, she can either gain temporary hit points equal to its rank, or a target of the spell takes 1 void damage per spell rank. I have a modified version of steady spell casting in my game, which I have given to Belcora, because my party consists of multiple people with reactive strike, and it would be quite anticlimactic if they were able to, because they're going to be able to crit with some frequency due to using proficiency without level. It would be very anticlimactic to have Belcora try to cast a spell and then get interrupted, especially when they're already going to be dealing more damage to her. Other than that, I didn't really change any of her stuff. I just moved her other things over. I did change her various effects here. She has quickened casting once a day, Haunted Lighthouse, which gives her all-around vision and can originate any of her stuff from any surface within the lowest 3 levels of the Gauntlet for 1 round. Well, until the end of her next turn, so a little over a round. Once every 10 minutes. And then her Corrupting Gaze, which does some mental damage and can stupefy. I've condensed all of those into the Gauntlet. It's a free action. It triggers when an encounter or round begins, so it'll begin at the start of combat, it'll happen, and then at the start of every round after that as well. I roll a d4, and unless I've done all 4 of them already, I re-roll repeats. So I would have to do 1, 3, and 4, and 2 before I could roll. If I already got 1, 2, and 3, I would need to get 4 before I could get 1, 2, or 3 again. But the first one is the Exuded Presence. It's taking her, extending her presence throughout the Gauntlet, and I buffed it a little bit. Until the next round, she can see with the benefits of all-around vision, can't be off guard, which, you know, these basically do the same thing, and can make ghostly hand attacks or use special abilities, including casting spells, athletics maneuvers, etc., originating from any surface in the area. It's a small buff to it, and then I made an effect to automate some of it and give her some cool light effects. On a 2, I crack fractures in reality around her, and people don't know how to describe it. This is each creature within 30 feet of her takes the damage and effects of her corrupting gaze. And I have another lighting effect for that as well. On a 3, the gauntlet groans and rolls, and crackling green darkness emanates from the floor. I roll 68, and then starting clockwise, treating 1 as north, I activate these lights. And any foes in a haunted light zone at the end of their turn suffer the effects of the crackling light trap that I have here, which is meant to do some bludgeoning damage and immobilize them with a relatively low escape DC. And then the haunting lights deactivate at the beginning of the next round. So, for example, if I rolled 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, I would activate these 6 lights. And then anyone who ends their turn in one of those areas would take some damage and become immobilized on a save. I also have these lights marked as emitting darkness. Yes, is darkness source. Because it's this kind of dark, evil energy, and my party will likely have some light to pierce through that regardless. And then on a 4, the gauntlet channels power directly into her, and she glows with a haunting beauty, gaining quickened casting on her first spell for the round. So basically I've folded all of her abilities into one kind of layer action. It's more focused around the idea of the gauntlet being here and empowering her. As for her spells, something that I find is pretty common with spells from adventure paths is that the people who write the adventure path focus a lot more on giving the creature a full spell list and a spell list capable of utilizing some of the narrative effects that you might want the creature to accomplish. So, for example, things like having illusory scene or having all of these rituals, like the teleportation circle, in the list, which makes sense, but I find that when I'm running games, it is more appropriate to just kind of hand wave those away. It's like, oh, she will cast a spell, and then this thing happens, narratively speaking. I only really put power word cutscene here because I thought it was quite funny. Otherwise, I would just have it be, its own unspoken thing. She does some magic, and everyone is frozen as I do the campaign ending narration. But anyways, and so you end up with these kind of unfocused lists. I find things like having nightmare or tongues, or for example, some things you might even need to be quite afraid of, like feeble mind at 6th rank. And read aura as a cantrip. And so when I'm building spellcasters, I like to focus in more on things that they're actually going to use, and then the narrative magic can be done by me because I'm the game master and I can just make that bit up. And so I focused on having some combat related cantrips, but nothing too overboard. A simple telekinetic projectile and a daze. A ray of enfeeblement combined with a true strike. There's death knell to attempt to snuff out lives. Telekinetic maneuver to try and push things into the boggy pits over here, because these are where the crackling light traps are naturally in the room. If anyone gets pushed into these puddles, they suffer the effects of this trap, in addition to the beams of light. I have Touch of Idiocy because it's, I believe, on the original Belcora's list as well, but it's essentially doing what Feeble Mind is doing already, but with less risk of someone rolling a natural one and losing immediately, which is something I try to avoid personally. I have Vampiric Touch because the temporary hit points and the death trait can make for a very dangerous setup. One of my PCs has recognized spell, so they can see this get thrown out and point out to their team that no one should get to low hit points. Confusion, to try to throw off the party's planning. Phantasmal Killer, because it's very fitting for her. Translocate, because grappling is incredibly strong, and if a boss is going to get grappled, I want them to have a way out of it. Black Tentacles, to try to lock down an area. See Invisibility, because it's something that she would absolutely prepare every morning as a high-level spellcaster, alongside Spell Immunity to heal, because she's seen the party on the few floors up cast the heal spell before. Paralyze, to attempt to shut down the party. Phantasmal Calamity for some burst damage. True Seeing in case something were to go wrong for her, to try to prevent her from seeing. Containment, both as a way to protect herself and contain an enemy. Dispel Magic, because even though the party doesn't have any magic users, having this available is always a good idea. And Tempest of Shades, because it's such a thematic incarnate spell for her fight. And then similarly to the Aberrant Sorcerer blood magic effect earlier, I have given her Undeath's Blessing and Drain Life for her focus spells. Now, as for the ability that I wanted to create, I wanted to create a reaction for her to use, because I think it's important for basically any boss to have a reaction of some sort. I'm not sure exactly how I want to go about this, but I think I want to use the Dread Wisps that are set up in this room. These are meant to provide support to her, because we play in proficiency without level. It's very important, more so than in a normal game even, to have supporting actors for your bosses, because they can very easily get surrounded and overwhelmed. But I also like to be sure, and this is how I tend to balance encounters, because I find it to be very reliable. I also don't want to overrun the party with those minions accidentally. Like, I could easily drop all 4 of them in at initiative, and I think it would overwhelm the party, even if they had good preparation. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a reaction for Call Servant. It's going to be a concentrate action. And it's going to trigger at the end of a round where Belcora has taken 30 damage or more. And then I needed to add some flavor text to the ability. And actually, this is as good a time as any to point out, as Matthew Colville said, because this is for you and not a published adventure, you can define things a little less specifically to be more helpful to you. So rather than 30 damage or more, rather than has taken 30 damage or more, where Belcora has lost the upper hand. Because now it's a lot more subjective. I wouldn't hand this off to someone else and ask them to run it. But I would run it myself, and this would be kind of a play-by-feel type thing. At the end of every round, I reevaluate how the party is doing, how Belcora is doing, and if she can use this. So, now for the flavor. I want to tie in something with the gauntlet. I want this to be evocative. I want this to help me provide descriptions of what happens. A drop of ectoplasm falls from Belcora's form, landing on the ground and dragging itself into the pool of water in the center. A bright green glow shoots out of the middle pond towards one of the 4 circles in the corners of the room, summoning a Dreadwisp into the encounter at Belcora's aid. There we go. So yes, you want to focus when creating abilities on having some kind of thematic flavor. So the drop of ectoplasm falling into the pool and then shooting out. And then you want to have mechanics. And again, like I said, I try to balance things by not only having the boss be balanced. I have Belcora here, who is going to use her flight to try to stay out of range of the party. And she's going to try to cast debilitating spells and then damaging spells. But I have this backup so that if the fight ends up going poorly for her, I can summon some allies to her aid. And then from there, I can reevaluate and perhaps summon more or perhaps not. The only downside to this ability that I've created is that it's a pretty uncommon reaction to see occur. It's not something that's going to happen every round, possibly, depending how well the party goes. I should also specify, as I'm showing all of this off, my party is very capable, and as well, because I'm using the Abomination Vaults expanded, they're going to have various buffs that they gain from the Rose Guard. So, for example, Otari Ilveshti, when they free him out of his kind of torment, which is part of what the Abomination Vaults expanded adds, the entire or the party gains bonuses to speeds and a massive bonus to escape checks, as well as the ability to cast a spell that switches things all around. So, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the exact approach I've shown here. If your party is running through the Abomination Vaults as normal, but I do think that the advice that I've shown off is definitely applicable to a lot of different forms of gaming. But anyway, that's all for me today. I don't have a combat demonstration for you this time. But I hope that you got something from this. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below if you've put anything of your own together with some of the steps that I've outlined either in this video or in the video before it. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you next time. See ya. See ya.